make a move and the bunny gets it.
I said, put the bunny back in the box. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box?
It's showtime.
Roar. Roar.
Colonel Ironsides here. 200 years I stood in the gap, fighting those who would harm my country. It was my honor, my sacred duty, so help me God. 9 times they took my life. 9 times I stood back up and made them pay. The freedom fighter I could handle anything, but someone betrayed me. I was ambushed, made mortal, rendered powerless, and retired. They passed an amendment that made me a civilian before I left the hospital. For 50 years I watched my country change. Lost its work while erasing me from history. The day I quit my job, I powered up and discovered they lied about that too. I'll remind them of freedom. I'll remind them of duty. I'll remind them of their oaths and who they serve. I'll remind them while I'm shoving it down their throats.
Psychically, I'm very well endowed.
I want to know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I want to know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Monday night show. This is the Bunny is Thinking. The Bunny is thinking about horror authors. Yeah, that's a little hard to horror. We had a whole joke about it. Anyway, tonight I'm going to talk about horror authors. Okay, you know what makes horror authors interesting and unique in all of authors is the fact that they go into the dark places and bring something back, something primeval, something terrifying, maybe something that terrifies them. A lot of them have vivid nightmares and things like that. In case of one, H.P. Lovecraft, he possibly had, what is that called? Some kind of... it's like you get it from rye bread, but it's like a hallucination, hallucinogen. I used to know what the name of it was, but there's some indication that he might have been tripping balls when he came up with a lot of his ideas. But I digress. We'll talk about Mr. Lovecraft later. Anyway, so when we start with horror, you've got horrific stories in the Bible. Like the Witch of Endor was a really horrific one. But talking about Satan and stuff like that. Hey, what's up, not Brian? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you, man. But you'll see. Let me pick that up so I can see my comments right quick. Here we go. All right. I wish you could click on the projection so you didn't have to keep going to the comments screen, but maybe that's coming. Maybe that's coming. I don't know. Anyway, so but yeah, the Bible had a lot of horrific stories. You got horrific stories of lore, legend. Pretty much every religion in the world has these horror stories. Ghost stories, scary stuff. But when it but publish what the ones that publish a lot, there really wasn't we just went over George Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which was probably the first widespread popular horror story, especially in the United States. I don't think there's anything before that, but I think I think our country was too Puritan for something like that before. And he published it in England, which was a lot less puritanical, and then it found its way back to America. Then it became popular in America because they're like, oh, this is an American author. But anyway, so this went on for a little while till the 1800s, I think. And a young man by the name of Edgar Allan Poe, he began publishing his stuff. And Edgar was a strange guy. And there really wasn't anybody like him before him. He was very well educated. He was from the Baltimore intelligentsia. He was well connected. Went to West Point at one point. You don't do that unless you're, you have connections enough to be, given a commission there. But basically, Hector, he went to really dark places and talked about some really dark subjects. He's also the father of the detective novel. He gets a lot of credit for that, rightfully so. But Mr. Edgar Allan Poe also, one of his obsessions was people being buried alive. And that was like something that just terrified him, and he just couldn't get over it. And one of the most terrifying stories he told was follow the House of Usher, which in it, Roger. But I bring up Follow the House. That's going to be later. Okay. But then after him, the aforementioned gentleman here, this is H.P. Lovecraft. Now, my opinion, let me give you my opinion on Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe, I think he had some great imagery. I think he had some really disturbing concepts, but I've always found his writing to be a little convoluted, and his characters or like just emotional constructs. You don't really find a lot of depth to his characters, and so if I'm going to read somebody for fun, I usually wouldn't choose Edgar Allan Poe. Murders in the Rue Morgue was probably as close as he came to, J. August Dupin, the detective in Murders of the Rue Morgue. Is probably his most developed character. But for the most part, Edgar is he's a historical anomaly. His Annabelle Lee, the Raven, his poetry will always be quoted and the poetry is probably the best thing about his writing. But his longer works, I don't read them for fun, per se. I don't like seek them out. So this guy here, H.P. Lovecraft, this gentleman here, he was not he was pretty much a shut-in. He was not somebody who went out in society very often. And because of that, he basically put his private terrors into his writing. And he came back with imagery from the nightmare realm that people are still imitating, people are still using in their work. The Innsmouth, the Mountain of Madness, so many other stories. He basically he went to dark places and he brought back dark things. And but when it comes to his writing is not a pleasurable thing for me. There are people that probably do find him very pleasurable to read, but I find that the guy had a thesaurus and he used it a lot. Okay. But at the same time, his writing is very insular. It's very compressed and almost claustrophobic. You don't find a lot of scope. Usually it's like one setting, or there's not a lot of travel going on. It's usually like one setting, one horrific thing happens. And like one cave, one small, beachfront town. And it's just, with him, I don't really read him for pleasure either. But he just has so many great concepts, so many things that stick with you long after you've read it. And I'm not really sure, but he read like Eldritch horror. It's pretty much his creation. If you anything with Eldritch horror, go straight back to straight back to Harrison. Yeah. And so there was, just like Edgar Allan Poe, there was before him and then there was after him, and pretty much everybody after him has been inspired by him. So there's a lot of H.P. Lovecraft babies in publishing still to this day. And it's because all of his work is falling into public domain. That's probably going to be in perpetuity. There's probably books being published or written right now that have Eldritch, H.P. Lovecraft concepts in them. But I don't really read him for pleasure. I like his short stories because, I can like read and walk away. But his longer works, that would be like Chinese water torture for me. I don't see people like listing him as Rod Serling definitely was inspired. Thank you for bringing up Rod Serling, because Rod Sterling's favorite author and the next most influential author after H.P. Lovecraft is somebody that you may actually. I have one more to point out. Now, in between Poe and H.P. Lovecraft was Rudyard Kipling. Now, most people don't think of Rudyard Kipling as a horror author, but he definitely wrote a lot of influential horror. Ray Bradberry quoted, "Rudyard Kipling is one of the finest writers of fantasy in the last 100 years. George Orwell wrote, as of what Kipling wrote about 19th century Anglo-India is not only the best, but almost the only literary picture we have. Andrew Lang, Kipling seemed perfect odyssey of strange experiences." this right here, I bought this, and I read like multiple stories out of it. Rudyard was hold on, I'm watching Twilight Zone channel on Pluto. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Give me a minute. But he wrote a lot of really kind of gothic horror. A lot of that Imperial era, were Victorian era horror, and but he, you know him mostly for the Tarzan stories, I think, mostly. But Rudyard, he did definitely. If you find this book anywhere, pick it up. You'll definitely find a lot of good stories in here. But I did mention Ray Bradberry. Ray Bradberry is huge influence on a lot of people. He actually, I think Ray Bradberry did write some Twilight Zone episodes. Also, Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles is next to me. Yep. And I mentioned Something Wicked This Way Comes when I did Disney's Dark. When Disney went dark Thursday night. If you haven't watched that, go ahead and watch that. And I'm going to talk about a certain remake of that by a very famous author when I get there. Anyway, but Ray Bradbury is very influential. Ray Bradbury. Just a really Ray Bradbury, while H.P. Lovecraft's known for his eldritch horror, Ray Bradbury is known mostly for evil children. A lot of his stories have like evil children in them. It's a little disturbing, but that seemed to be his raison d'etre. He just loved evil children. Not really sure why that is, but if you read Ray Bradbury, you're going to run into it. Either evil children or children in peril. You find that a lot in Ray Bradbury. And the Martian Chronicles is definitely very influential in sci-fi horror. So evil children, is he a Democrat? No, because the Democrat would have murdered them before they were born. So anyway, thanks for having me go political. And YouTube goes suppress. Well, appreciate it. Thank you, crew. Thank you, Will. Appreciate it. Okay. So let me talk about this guy here, Richard Matheson. Now, Stephen King once called Richard Matheson's Hell House, this right here, the Mount Everest of haunted houses. He put it over Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House, which is also very highly prized. But this one genuinely goes harder than Hill House. But he also wrote, if you've ever seen the movie The Duel, where this businessman, this salesman, cuts off a transfer truck, and the transfer truck comes after him and tries to kill him. That's actually from The Duel. This is also Richard Matheson. Richard Matheson wrote a bunch of these Twilight Zone episodes. And he happens to be, he wrote I Am Legend. He wrote The Incredible Shrinking Man, Stir of Echoes. You know that one? That's a movie. I think starring Kevin Bacon. What Dreams May Come. That he wrote that. Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. But he wrote a lot of the Twilight Zone episodes. Matheson is very, very, very influential. He also wrote Real Steel as part of his short story collection. But let me read you some of these Twilight Zone episodes that you'll recognize. When the Day is Done, that's the Twilight episode where these ladies are in the house and they're all burning to death, or they're all dying because something happened with the sun. That's his. Somewhere in Time is also his. That was a Christopher Reeve story. Anyway, or Time After Time, or Somewhere in Time. I can't remember, but he also wrote that. But he's a very highly influential writer. He was in California, but he wrote a lot of like Night Galleries. He wrote a lot of television episodes. If you look at his discography, most of your favorite stuff was written by Richard Matheson. So you owe him a big like round of applause. You just don't know that you do. So if you get a chance to read Richard Matheson's stuff, I Am Legend is a must read. Hell House, Hell House is a huge. If you love haunted house, that is the haunted house story. Make sure you get that one. Oh, shared. All right, appreciate it, man. Now there's two authors that kind of came out. Actually, three authors that came out at the same time. I'm going to talk about two of them because I'm going to save the other one for last. And the first one is Stephen King. Now, I was a huge King fan, huge King fanatic. Okay. Started with the short stories. This is Skeleton Crew. You can tell I'm a fan because I wrote, I read the cover off of it. But, he did needful things. Earlier. I talked about Something Wicked This Way Comes. This is Stephen King's version of that. It also was made into a movie, as most Stephen King stuff is. This book right here is kind of infamous. Now, the mini series doesn't hold a candle to the book, but there's a lot of stuff in that book that is really, really icky. Okay, Stephen King, when he went places and he brought stuff back, there's a lot of stuff that he brought back that is very problematic. Very things that'll turn your stomach. Okay. But it's not because of the horror, but because something's wrong with it. Red Room Riddle. Let me see. And can't stand King now. Can't stand his politics and can't stand his writing. His writing has dropped off so far. But anyway, but these are good examples. The short stories. I've often said that Stephen King is a novella writer. And his novellas are just the best. Are the best writing that he's ever done. So that's 4 Past Midnight and Different Seasons. Once again, I read the cover off of it. Different Seasons is Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemptions, and Different Seasons, The Body, which later became Stand By Me. And Apt Pupil, also a movie that came out. But The Breathing Method never has been made into a movie, and that's my favorite story out of the whole thing. It also has this really weird club in it that shows up twice in his fiction that I think would be just an incredible setting for a series. It would be kind of like a night gallery kind of thing, but the Nameless Club is what it's called. But Different Seasons, if you don't have it in your collection, you need to get it. You definitely need to get it. Hold on a second. Hell. What's up? Good to see you, Buzz. Good to see you. Started reading The Dark Half when I was in high school. First chapter gave me nightmares for months. Never read anything from him again. Not The Dark Half, man. So you didn't get past the problematic birth then. Okay. I hear you. He hates this book, but I actually enjoy this book, Rose Madder. I thought it was being made into a movie once upon a time, but I never saw it come out. But like I said, his short stories are just awesome. Everything's Eventual is a good one. There's a couple other collections. Anytime you see a short story collection by him, get it. But then Just After Sunset is like the last short story collection I got, and he definitely has lost his touch. I don't remember any of the stories I read, and but every once in a while he'll do something kind of one-off, like The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. It's kind of a strange story. I think it was made into a mini series. But you got the old classics like Christine, when he got into fantasy. The Eye of the Dragon. Now, Bag of Bones, decent book, and it had a trans character in it. So I'm sure that's a little problematic now. It got made into a television. Desperation and Richard Bachman, which was these books came out at the same time. Richard Bachman was the Regulators, but they both came out at the same time and had same characters in them. Both of the books were good. I think it's the last good thing he really did. This is supposed to be a movie that came out, but I haven't seen it. Lisi's Story, but that story is just odd. I can't recommend it. But the last thing I got by him was this. This was Full Dark, Full of Stars, or No Stars. Full Dark, No Stars. He's had like several movie projects come out of it, but I never got through it. I mean, I read it halfway, and I was just like, I'm reading this because I want to complete it. I'm not reading it because I want to read it. And that's a death knell. You just walk away at that point. Now, for all of his foibles, for all of the running off at the mouth and the disdain that he has for the people who actually read his books, evidently, it's nice to know that you hate our guts, Uncle Stevie. It really does. It was really nice to know. Nice to find out. But anyway, this is the best book on writing. And that's what it's called, on writing. But this is the best book on writing that you can get. If anybody you know, your nephews, your nieces, your sons, your daughters, anybody you know that wants to learn how to write well, this is a game changer. Gives you all it has his biography in it. And, he has his inspirational biography. But some of the practical steps he put in here. Telepathic Bunny actually came from this book. That's where I got the name from. But anyway, so that's enough about Uncle Stevie. Hateful New England asshole that he is. So let me talk about the California equivalent to Stephen King. And that is this dude here, Dean Koontz. Okay. Now, this is the author photo he used to use, but then suddenly he started showing up in author photos with a full head of hair. And we're like, Dean, everybody kind of like has seen you, dude. So I don't know why he just started doing that. But Dean, the problem with Dean is he puts out book after book after book. And they all have a sameness to them. When he started, early on, like this one here, Dark Fall, has voodoo, kind of a voodoo thing in it. Then you have Dragon Tears, which has kind of like a Frankenstein super villain kid in it. But then you have like Mr. Murder, which was it's like a serial killer story. Dark Rivers of the Heart. It's a serial killer story, but told from his son. You know, but also this particular one also talks about the surveillance state, and he has another book called I think Whispers. Has a intelligent dog in it, also talking about the surveillance state. But the biggest problem with him is that every once in a while he'll get a vein of good fiction, and then he'll abandon it. You know, he'll like write himself into a corner. Was it bad? Yeah, I got you. But he'll mine it for a while, but then he'll just like abandon it. One good example is this one. A story about a guy who is allergic to sunlight. He lives in a place called Moonlight Bay. His name's Christopher Snow. Okay. He wrote this one, and he wrote this one, Fear Nothing. And then he abandoned it. And so we never found out what happened to Christopher Snow. And he's just like, moved on. You know, sorry, you know. He also wrote his version of Frankenstein. And he wrote this one, and this one, right? Then he got to this one, and poof. And he also has this character named Odd Thomas, probably his best character. Odd Thomas had a lot of Christopher Snow in him, but he did write multiple books on Odd Thomas, and he did finally finish Odd Thomas series. I just haven't got the last book, but he did finally finish that. But he also had a book I have somewhere. I can't find it, but it's called Intensity. And Intensity is one of the best. I think it's his pinnacle. It's the best book or best series or best one-off novel. It has a lady in it who was raised in a cult and kind of like found the strength within herself to kind of move beyond that. But then she finds, she runs across the serial killer who kills her friend, and during the course of the serial killer, like murdering her friend, he talks about a young girl that he has captive, and yeah, that is strange. Maybe because it's about the Kennedy assassination. Yeah, I was wondering what you meant wasn't bad. But yeah, that book about a guy going back and like trying to save Kennedy, and he couldn't do it because certain things just can't be changed. Was made into a mini series starring what is his name? He was in Freaks and Geeks. James Franco. But anyway, before he was Me Too'd. Pretty good series, pretty good book. I didn't get through it though. At that time, I was so over Stephen King, I was done. But Dean Koontz, if you can get Intensity, get it. I read him a while, but it started sounding the same because it's like he was contracted for books and he was determined to put one out. And so after a while, the formula just kind of wore thin on me. Now he has a short stories called Strange Highways, which is still good. And he also has a book called Soul Survivor, which was also a movie, made into a movie. And Soul Survivor was really, really good. But a lot of his stuff got formulaic. I don't know if he's broke out of that, but I haven't read him in years because of that. Now, Now, let me move on a little bit. James Franco, right? Yep. But now John Douglas, I hope he watches this, because I'm about to talk about the beginning of the supernatural mommy porn movement. And it's this lady right here. This is the book that started it all. This is Laura K. Hamilton. Now, this is a good story. She has a great protagonist called Anita Blake. And, Anita Blake has a vampire who's after her named Jean-Claude. And it's actually a really good story. And the Laughing Corpse, which is my favorite of all of them, is actually a straight up horror story, which is good. But you have Circus of the Damned, where she started to like collecting sex scenes and stuff like that. And I think The Killing Dance was after was the second book. Then Laughing Corpse and Circus of the Damned. Burn Offerings right here. Blue Moon I'd have somewhere. But once she hit Obsidian Butterfly, that's when the sex scenes started creeping up to like a chapter long. And then after Obsidian Butterfly, she truly went off the mommy porn bandwagon. I mean, she truly jumped on the bandwagon with the mommy porn. And supernatural mommy porn movement was born, and it took over the industry. Everybody wanted to be a Laura K. Hamilton. She's still writing today, but then she had a second series called the Meredith Gentry series, and it started out pretty good. But this lady was like she is like part fairy, but it's like she's a succubus, I guess you would say. And so sex, more sex and more sex. And you get paragraph long descriptions of guys, with long hair, they all pout. They all have like perfect bodies and massive, what's and after a while it just oh, okay, so another page of sex. And she switched partners. Oh, now there's like 3 partners. Okay, but anyway, but the whole mommy porn industry came from her. But these first books, up until City and Butterfly, are recommends for me because they're all good. She have good characterizations, and she has amazing. Anita Blake is an amazing character, but then she got into the mommy porn and just everything. Everything became about who was banging her, and when you got or characters that don't exist, and I can tell you, how their hair falls, or how their bodies are shaped, or if they have a massive schlong or not. I mean, I read her long enough, and I was like, oh, that's such and such, and then I was like, wait a second, why am I recognizing the body of one of her characters? It's because she describes them so like endlessly that I was starting to recognize like characters by their hair, or characters by their butt size, or whatever. I mean, it was the whole mommy porn industry came from this lady, Laura K. Hamilton. But up to that point, she's a brilliant writer. And she was writing great horror fiction, but up to Obsidian Butterfly, and then after Obsidian Butterfly, jump off. And you probably want to make it Obsidian Butterfly. There's just so much. I mean, and she's good. She's a good-looking lady, and she's happily married, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. The obsession with porn is just wow. I mean, guys are the visual porn, but that stuff right there, man, those ladies, they just eat it up. Holy crap. Well, let me get to some modern. Oh, by the way, if you're going to read some Laura K. Hamilton, this is Strangers with Candy or Strange Candy. This is her short story collection. I highly recommend it. And this shows you how brilliant she is. But there's no sex in it. But it kind of but it has like a great short story about a real estate agent trying to sell a house where a man sacrificed his family to a demon, and the demon came and murdered him. And she's tried to kind of like, there's a ghost of the child in the house, and she's tried to take a look at it, and she winds up getting an exorcist. And then when she goes to sell the house, some vampires show up to buy the house, and they're totally okay with the history of it. But it's a great story. It's a great story. She has like several things in it, like that are just brilliant, because she's a brilliant writer. She's a brilliant freaking writer. That's why I stuck with her so long. But, after a while, I'm sorry. I mean, after a while, I don't want to recognize somebody's body parts because they've been written about in ad nauseum. Anyway, so let me get to some modern horror authors. Let's go with Neil Gaiman. Now, he doesn't do a lot of horror, but this book here, short stories, is really good. It has some really horrific stories in it. Oddly enough, stories that where the main characters are pedophiles who abuse younger people is in here. So every once in a while you start hearing about or you start reading people's stuff, and like Stephen King with the kids running a train on a teenage girl in the sewers under Derry and It. You start like, or a kid being raped vividly by a perverted library and library policeman. So after a while, you start wondering, it's like, where are they getting this stuff from? Neil Gaiman, you got some splaining to do. American Gods, I read that, and it had some sick stuff in it too. But when you talk about somebody who makes you want to wash your brain out with soap, this guy, Clive Barker. Did you know Clive Barker is gay? Yes, he is gay. He is very gay. As a matter of fact, gay is everything that he is, and it's all in his work, and everything is about it. There are some books out there, I think, that don't have all the subtext in it. This was not one of them. Cold Heart Canyon. But he, like with the Hellraiser and things like that, that's basically based off a short story. His Harry D'Amour stuff is pretty good. But if you read Clive Barker, know that you're going to want to take a shower. I think Candyman was also based off a short story of his. He just goes there. He just goes there every time. Now, I've heard of Magica is pretty good. It's more of a children's. I can't imagine that guy writing stuff for children, though. He's just not my cup of tea. But he is a brilliant writer. But it's just subtext everywhere, and I don't know. I mean, he was the flavor of the month for a little while in Hollywood, and he might be your cup of tea. He's a brilliant writer. I mean, he is. But yeah, after I got through a couple books, and I was done. I think his short stories are more influential. I mean, Candyman came out of his short stories. The Lord of Illusions came out of one of his short stories. Hellraiser came out of one of his short stories, and so he's very influential with his short stories. But he's just not my cup of tea. You know. Anyway, a guy that is my cup of tea is this guy here. This is Christopher Farnsworth. Okay. Now, he's not straight up horror, but he's got the President's Vampire series. This is really good stuff. Like this one, he fights against Frankenstein, at least the version of Frankenstein. And this one here, he fights against the man who kind of like wants to unleash Innsmouth, the H.P. Lovecraft Innsmouth monsters on America. And he's like under a mall in the middle of America, and he wants to overrun America with it. But this one here, it goes up against a kind of a Jason Voorhees monster style slasher monster, and it's really, really good. But these books have a lot of horror in them, have a lot of horrific elements, except the nightmare or the vampire in it is probably the best written vampire. Nathaniel Cade is his name. It's just probably the best written vampire you're going to find. But now, I left enough space to talk about my favorite all-time author. And you may have heard of this guy, you may not have. But his name is Robert McCammon. I used to go by Robert R. McCammon, but to break his publishing deal, he had to he basically couldn't publish writing for a while until he could get out of his publishing deal, and then he came back with just a complete total banger. But his name is Robert R. Went by Robert R. McCammon, but he wrote one of my all-time favorite books, period. And this is called Boy's Life. The cover's torn off of it for a reason. I read the crap out of it. But I still listen to audiobook every once in a while. But this is the pinnacle for me. This is as good as you get, writing-wise. And he let me see. I'm going to tell you my favorite book of all time that he wrote. I'll save that for last. But he also wrote this book here. Also wrote the cover off of. It's called The Blue World. Let me read you this open introduction. Let me just read it to you. Fast cars, the sign said. It was in front of a used car lot in the neighborhood where I grew up. Fast cars. My friends and I passed it every day on our way to school. Our bikes were the fast cars of our imagination, our Mustangs, our Corvettes, and Thunderbirds. We longed for four wheels, but we were confined to two, and on them we hurtled into the future. I've built my own fast cars during this book, and they're eager for passengers. They're not made of metal, glass, nuts, and bolts, but rather of the fabric of wonder. All of them have a starting point, and all of them have a destination. You can sit behind the wheel, but I have to steer. Trust me. We would travel, you and I, across a tortured land where hope struggles to grow like seed in drought. In this land, a place with no boundaries, we'll run the freeways and back roads, and we'll listen to the song of the wheels and peer into the windows at lives that might be our own. If we lived in that land, sometimes we'll have the wind at our backs and sometimes in our faces. We'll see storms in the distance whirling close, and we'll smell the forest and the sea and the hot concrete of the city. Our road will lead us onward deeper into the tortured land, and as the speedometer revs and the engine roars, we may find strange visions on that twisting highway. The guy can write. But this is Blue World. This is short stories. including the Blue World, the story, which is just an incredible story. There was once upon a time it was supposed to be made into a movie, and it kind of just disappeared. But Gone South, great story. It's pretty much about a Vietnam vet who gets caught in a situation beyond his control, and winds up running from the law, trying to find a person who can heal him from his cancer. Along the way, a lot of crazy stuff happens, but it's awesome. Mystery Walk is good. It's definitely just, but all of them have a Southern Gothic kind of feel to them. All of them are pretty much set in the South. That might be why I kind of vibe with them better than Stephen King. But Stephen King has said more than once that Robert R. McCammon is just a genius, a master. This one's called Mine. I got this in hardcover from the library, about a woman named Mary Terror, who is like a Weather Underground kind of lady, who was a terrorist in the 70s. And she decides that she needs to steal a baby. And the mother she stole it from has to hunt her down. And it's just, how does that work? It works. It's just he's a brilliant writer. Just absolute brilliant writer. When he came back, he wrote the Matthew Corbett. Sorry. He wrote the Matthew Corbett series. Started with the 2-part series. Speaks the Nightbird. The first one's called I can't remember, but he wrote Swan Song, very influential book. The Wolf's Hour, the best werewolf story you will ever read. The Wolf's Hour. Stinger, it's also a banger of a book. He also wrote one called The Night Boat, another one called Bethany's Passing. Bethany's Passing, I think, is really early on. He doesn't like that book very much. But this Matthew Corbett series just concluded. But it starts with Speaks the Nightbird, 1 and 2. But I think it got combined later. Queen of Bedlam was the second one. Wasn't really my cup of tea, but he's written several things since that were. But the book that he wrote that is my favorite all-time horror novel is Edgar Allan Poe's Follow the House of Usher. He decided to write a sequel called Usher's Passing. As you see, broke it to pieces. But he said it near me, a place called Asheville. The Vanderbilts built a house there, this massive house called the Biltmore House. And so he took the Vanderbilts and made them into the Ushers. Went from the Vanderbilts were over the railroads, but Ushers, he made them military armorers, basically. And he also created this lore, this Appalachian lore. And he also mixed in a race of witches that are in the mountains, a mysterious child-grabbing man called the Pumpkin Man, a monstrous panther called Greedy Guts, and meanwhile, he's telling you about all of the Ushers. He's taking you through the history of the Ushers and their massive, monstrous house called the Lodge. And all along the way, there's this overarching mystery as to who's going to be the next Usher heir. And the twist would just blow your mind. It's the best horror novel I've ever read. And The Boy's Life is probably the best, novels, period. But the best horror novel is Usher's Passing. If you have not read anything by Robert R. McCammon or Robert McCammon, you need to fix that as soon as possible. Okay. He kicks so much butt. I can't recommend him highly enough. Highly enough. If you don't read anything else in your life, read A Boy's Life. Read Boy's Life. Is about a young man remembering his childhood, and as he recalls his childhood, it kind of like you don't know what he's remembering or what he was making up as he goes, and but the journey is just beautiful, and there's this overarching mystery that goes like a murder mystery that feeds all the way through the book. But in the course of that book, you run across a Wild West like a gunslinger. You run across a ghost car on a back highway. You run across a Stegosaurus Rex that got like released from a traveling carnival in the area, and it's just so much awesomeness. A possibly sentient bike that is like gifted to this boy by a elderly black lady who is one of the most incredible characters you're ever going to run across, called the Lady. And she's a black lady in the South, and if you want to know what black-white relations were in the 60s without the lens of liberal, every white person was evil, lens that they've taught history. And this is the most accurate representation of people I know, people like my family. I had the people in my family who would slip the N word every once in a while when they didn't think anybody was listening. Then I had the other people who had black friends and that they would die for. And they're all in the same community. There's no community is monolithic. They do that. They make communities monolithic to kind of like to create narratives that suit them, that fit whatever they want to accomplish. But Boy's Life, if you want to know a Southern town in the 60s and 70s was like, pick up that book. And Going South is an awesome kind of a Tolkien-like journey through a modern South. What's up? Hey, good to see you, Wookie. But okay, so the authors that not everybody knows, but everybody should. Like everybody knows Lovecraft, everybody knows Poe. Most people don't know Rudyard Kipling wrote horror fiction, horror and science fiction. So he's worth a pickup. But the people that I'm going to recommend to you that you may not know that much about, Richard Matheson. You know him, you just don't know you know him. You've been watching him on your favorite Twilight Zone episodes. I think he did episodes of Star Trek, but he wrote for TV and movies all throughout the 70s, 60s and 70s. And in his novels, I Am Legend they've attempted to make that book or that story multiple times. The one with Will Smith is not the I Am Legend that you should be remembering. Especially the ending. The ending of I Am Legend is probably one of the best endings ever penned. But also, Richard Christopher Farnsworth, the Nathaniel Cade series. Pick that up. And among your Dean Koontzes, among your Clive Barkers, among your Neil Gaiman, if you're that desperate. Pick up some Robert R. McCammon and check him out. I can't recommend him enough. He is the best author I've ever read. He's by far my favorite. And I think that's pretty much everybody. So hopefully I've given you somebody to check out, and in the horror fiction area, in the horror fiction arena. Like I said, Laura K. Hamilton, the first books before they descended into the horrors of mommy porn, up to Obsidian Butterfly are pretty good. And they're recommended with some reservation, because the sex does start creeping in pretty early. And the body parts, the bodies, the hair, and she's obsessed with long hair, pouty men. And after a while, it just kind of gets repetitive. But the plots are good. Anita Blake is a good character, and has some genuine horror scares in it. And she has some really great villains. But, you may have to skip a chapter or two of, somebody running a train on her. It is what it is. But so the thing about horror fiction is everybody has distinctive things they're afraid of. Have like things that give them nightmares, things that get to them more than others, and the person who freaks you out might not be the person that freaks this person out, And somebody can read Stephen King all night long. Me, when I read It, I had a waking nightmare, because I couldn't put the book down. I was in the third half of it, and the third half is really well paced. And I couldn't put the book down, but I fell asleep with my eyes kind of open. And I saw the ceiling fan shadows hit the corner of the wall, and it looked like this massive spider that was coming down on me. If you know the book, the massive spider in the third half, or third. But I scared me so bad that I let out a cry and killed my ceiling fan. Up to when they took it out, the ceiling fan was still kind of hanging crooked. It still made a whirling noise. But yeah, after that, nobody woke up in the house. It's weird. Nobody woke up in the house. I've gone to the bathroom and had lights come on and go, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm using the bathroom, But that night, nobody woke up. I was like, that didn't wake you up? I mean, but yeah, Stephen King, man. Stephen King used to be really good. If you haven't read Different Seasons, pick it up as soon as possible. And any of the short story combinations, except for that last one. I don't know what happened with that last one. But it's just, I think when he moved to Florida, I think he lost his edge or something. Because nothing he's had since he's been in Florida has really appealed to me at all. Plus the fact he hates my guts. That kind of dampened my love of Uncle Stevie. But like I said, find the horror fiction author that gets your goat, keeps you up at night, and enjoy. So hopefully I've exposed you to somebody new, somebody that you're going to enjoy. And thank you for coming to the show tonight. Follow the White Rabbit. Have a good evening. Bye, everybody.